Okay, students, so today I want to talk about consumer behavior, and we'll start this discussion with a general set of properties or rules that we like to incorporate in order to model consumer behavior in economics appropriately. So let's set down a few things here, a few ideas first. So if we look at consumer behavior, couple of conventions. If we have two goods, X and Y, these goods can be bundled in different ways. So we could have two of good X and one of good Y and bundle A, and one of good X and two of good Y and bundle B, and two of each good and bundle C, and so forth. So once we have these bundled, let's call our bundles A and B. Um, naming convention here. If we have this, we say that A is preferred to B. This symbol that looks a little bit like a greater than sign is a preference sign or a preferred sign. So here we would say A is preferred to B. Likewise, if we had this, we'd say B is preferred to A. And lastly, if we have this little A tilde B, we'd say A, and we'll say that we're indifferent. Let's do this. We're indifferent between bundles A and B. So that means we don't really prefer one over the other. We could just as easily take bundle A or bundle B. Okay, so now that we've laid out these little rules, let me add another layer here. Let's add some specific properties that allow us to actually analyze consumer behavior. So this would be properties of preferences. So the first property of preferences is what we call completeness. And all completeness means is that the consumer knows their preferences for different bundles of goods. So if I had two bundles of goods, A and B, I would know that I prefer A over B, or I would know that I prefer B over A, or I would know that I'm indifferent between A or B. And what this does is this prevents the situation where we have two bundles and the consumer doesn't know which they prefer over the other. And the reason we need to prevent that is if we're going to try to analyze consumer behavior, we can't have these sort of odd behaving bundles where the consumer doesn't know which they prefer. So we have to have this completeness in order to analyze. The second property of preferences is the more is better property. So here we would say if A has at least as much of X and Y as B, and perhaps even maybe a little more of either, let's say more of X or more of Y. So we'll say and more of either X or Y. Then A is preferred to B. So in other words, as long as we have the same amount of one good as B has, if we have more of the other good than B has, we prefer that because we like to have more of each good if we can. The third property is called diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Or MRS, diminishing MRS. What the marginal rate of substitution is that if I'm at any one bundle, the amount of one good that I'm willing to give up for the other good depends upon how much of the first good I have. So for instance, and we'll do an example of this here in a little bit, if I have, let's say, Coke and pizza, if I have a lot of Coke and very little pizza, then I'm willing to give up a decent amount of Coke to get some pizza, that first piece of pizza. But if, as I give up, let's say, 2 Cokes for that first piece of pizza, if I want to get a second piece of pizza, I'm less willing to give up 2 Cokes now, because I have fewer Cokes as it is, and the pizza is not going to provide as much satisfaction as that first piece of pizza. So the rate at which I'm willing to substitute Coke for pizza is going to diminish the more pizza I have and the less Coke that I have. And I'll show this diagrammatically here, either in this video or in the next video. All right, so the fourth property is transitivity, and this is just like what you would have learned about in mathematics, which just says that, you know, if we have this bundle A is preferred to B, and we have some bundle B which is preferred to C, then by this transitive property we would say that we could make the conclusion that A is preferred to C. Likewise, if we have these are in different bundles, let's say A is indifferent to B and B is indifferent to C, then we could say that A is indifferent to C. All right, so those are the properties of our preferences. Now in the next video, let me do some diagramming, and we'll work through some of these properties and develop our model a little more.